Hey, my name is Ben Fraser. I'm the founder of Ready.Set.Van, and we get a lot of people who ask to see behind the scenes of how we build these beautiful homes on wheels. So I thought today we'd give a tour of our production facility, also give you a little background on some of the materials we use and our design process. So let's get into it. So we're actually going to start our tour here in our warehouse. I know it's not the most glamorous of places. It's where we keep big piles of windows, our thin-slit insulation, toilets, sinks, you name it, piles of prefabricated cabinets. We do a little bit of van work in here, usually if we're doing window cuts or fan cuts, things like that. This printer is getting 7 or 8 cuts later today. So it's loud. It's nice to do it in a place where there aren't a lot of other people talking. And believe it or not, the main thing I want to talk to you about in the warehouse, and it's really the reason we're here, is to talk about the plywood that we use. Sounds a little silly to talk about plywood, but it's actually crucially important to our process and the product that we make, because everything is made out of it, or not everything, but most things are made out of it. And you may not know, but pretty much every traditional RV company builds their cabinets out of MDF or like a chipboard or some kind of compressed sawdust product that's then laminated and then usually has like a kind of like a rubber edging applied to it. That has in our opinion, that has a bunch of problems. Number one, it's incredibly heavy. And number two, they tend not to be as strong over time. So like an MDF is basically just compressed sawdust. If you have a screw that's going into compressed sawdust, it holds really well in the beginning. But in the back of a van, it's like being in an earthquake, for hundreds of thousands of miles. And that compressed sawdust will start to loosen up over time. And that's why you see a lot of RVs with all their cabinets falling apart and things like that. So obviously that's not something that's acceptable to us here. So we'll never use any product like that. A full sheet of MDF is like 90 pounds. It's incredibly heavy. A standard sheet of hardwood plywood that you get at like Lowe's or something like that is 70 pounds. So it's still quite heavy. That's a much better product to build from though. And then the product that we build on is a lightweight plywood that is sourced from Indonesia. We buy it literally by the truckload here. So this pile is about at the point where we would be ordering another truckload, because it takes a little while for it to get here. But a full sheet of 3/4 inch light ply is only 40 pounds. So compared to the way, a company like Winnebago or somebody like that builds, a sheet of this is basically half of what one of those would weigh. And then it's about 40% less than what like a sheet that you might buy at Home Depot weighs. That makes a huge, huge difference on the total weight of your build. So our builds typically come in around 1,500 pounds for the full build, like for a base camper. That we figure the weight savings is probably around 350, maybe 400 pounds. So that's the difference between like a 1,500 pound build and a 1,900 pound build, which is a lot. You're going to feel that driving around. You're going to feel it going up hills. So it makes a big difference. So the weight's a big deal, but also, the finish and how it holds together is a really, really big deal. So back here, what we do, like the next step of our process is we actually take every sheet of plywood back here, we prime it, we sand it, and then we finish it again with a cabinet paint. And so every sheet leaves here, it's already white on the surface, it's been sanded and painted, so it's really smooth. This plywood has really high quality cores to it, so it's incredibly strong, despite the fact that it is so light. And from here, then all of this wood gets sent over to our production space where it gets cut on the CNC. That's one of the things that's really important to us, is that from this point on, we actually have complete vertical control over the entire manufacturing process. We don't job anything out. Most bigger companies, RV companies, don't even make any of their cabinets. They don't make any of their stuff. They're just literally bolting stuff together. They have very little control over that process. We have complete control over the whole thing here, which we love, and for reasons that I'll get into more later. But basically, we can be able to design and test and iterate and really have a very tight loop on our whole development and production process, which means that we can really be sure that we are building the best quality product, but then also improving it quickly when it needs improving and making adjustments to anything that needs to be changed over time. So you'll get to see a little bit more of that in a second, but I just wanted to show you this, talk to you about plywood. Sorry, it's probably a little boring, but it's actually, since it is the core material that goes into so much of what we do, it's actually incredibly important. So we're gonna head over to the office. That's where kind of the next stage of a lot of this stuff happens, and we'll go check that out. The office is actually one of our only quiet spaces, so as a result, it's a combination of our sales and operations team, our design team, and then it's also where we do a lot of systems prefab work. So right here is Chris. He runs basically sales, operations, finances. He's kind of in charge of keeping all the wheels on the wagon, making sure everything runs smoothly, and he does a great job. Behind me is our systems prefab zone, so let's go check it out. Looks like John is building an electrical cab. So this is where we prefabricate all of our systems. We bring an empty cabinet back here, and then we populate it with all of either the electrical components or the plumbing components that need to go in it. So right now John's building an electrical cabinet for a base camper. Once this is done, it'll be checked for quality control. We'll test everything, and then it'll head out and go straight into a base camper that we have up front. Over here we've got Alex. Alex is on our design team and also our production management team. So Alex plays kind of two roles. He's up front, keeping the shop going, making sure everybody's got what they need, but then also back here doing CAD work periodically and also making different parts. This is Brandon. Brandon's been with me since actually the very beginning. Brandon was living in his van out west when we started this whole thing. And he actually came back to help me launch it way back in the beginning and has been on this whole crazy ride since then. So over here we've got our 3D printer. Right now we're printing a couple small parts. We don't print a ton of stuff on here, but the 3D printer really is the tool of choice for like really small, intricate parts that you can't really make any other way. And so right now we're making these two little guys, and I'll show you right here kind of what these are for. So this is our overhead cabinet from the base camper. It's our front overhead cabinet, so it's right over the kitchen unit. And we've installed these in probably 40 base campers at this point. They've changed a little bit over time, little things here and there, but they've been awesome. And a couple months ago, we had a client who called who had put like a bunch of canned goods and some heavy items in her overhead compartment, driven around, parked, and then when she got where she was going, she opened up her overhead and the cans fell out and they cracked her cooktop. That was fine, we sorted it out, and she got back on her way. And we thought, well, that's an unfortunate outcome, but it was the first time it ever happened, and we thought, that's maybe not something we need to worry about. About a month ago, we got another client who called us and did the exact same thing. So we helped them get a new cooktop, but then we realized after that, okay, this is actually a failure mode that we need to design around. This isn't just a one-off thing, that there are people out there who aren't necessarily thinking about what they're doing with the goods in that overhead compartment, and we need to try and build in some sort of protection there. So we tried a bunch of different designs for how to create a barrier in that overhead cabinet. There's slight challenges because of the position of our gas struts that we have in the overhead cabinet, and we actually designed, built, and tested three different designs. We didn't really love all of them, or any of them actually. There was always one little thing that was kind of wrong. with them. But we've settled on this version. I think it's going to be great. We're actually just going to be testing it out for the first time today, so I'm really excited about that. The solution is, we have these little 3D printed little parts here that are printing behind me, and then we put them on this stainless steel rod. So there are holes in the overhead compartment that are just a perfect snug fit for the bottoms of this, and these will just basically just snap right down into the overhead compartment. So then this will be a rail on the front of the overhead compartment. I think it looks really nice. I think it's going to work. I think functionally it's going to be fantastic. And one of the really nice things about this is that not only is it going to be an improvement for all of our clients going forward, but also this design is easy for us to retrofit in our previous client builds. In fact, almost anybody can do this. We just need to make sure you have the right size drill bit, drill in, don't drill too far, but drill in and mount it right in. And so, so actually once we've tested this and we're sure that it's working great, we're actually going to offer this to all our clients that are out there as something that they can retrofit themselves if they want to. So that's really great. But actually what I want to do is I want to take you over to the CNC machine so you can actually see the part that this is going to fit into. We just cut out the first overhead with those holes, so we want to test and see how that works. And then you can also see the next phase of our production. Inside here is our production space. This is where we have our CNC machine, a bunch of other machines as well. But the CNC really is the heart of our whole operation. And running the CNC machine is Kaylee. She's awesome. She's our CNC operator. She makes sure that we have parts flying off of this machine all day long, every day, so that our whole production can keep moving. So in front of me is a board that Kaylee just cut out. This is board one of our overhead cabinet for the base camper. This board has a bunch of different parts on it, but on this board it also has the part that we were just looking at back on my computer. So that overhead compartment has two little holes that are going to be for this part here, and those are right here. It actually has 4 of them because we're going to have 2 separate rails in that part that's over the kitchen. And so these will just snap in right there. And we'll have another one over here. This is our first time making one of these, so we're going to see how it goes when we put it together. We'll test it out and make sure that the final part lives up to our design goals that we had at the very beginning. So one of the things that's really great about the CNC that people don't necessarily realize is most people immediately think, oh, this is great, you can make things really fast, which we can, and that is great. But what's far more valuable is that we have incredible accuracy, that we have incredible repeatability, so we can cut parts very accurate, and then they're going to be very accurate every single time. Being able to do that, and then the fact that it gives us a new capability that we're just much more agile in the way that we develop things. So just like with this little part, it's a silly little thing, right? It's just a little railing that we're putting on an overhead, but it allows us to design, test, change, design, test, change, and keep doing that until we land on the part that we want. And then once we have it, we know that that is always going to stay the same. It's going to be repeated throughout all the parts going forward until we need to make another change. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll design, test, iterate, design, test, iterate, until we get to the thing that we want. And so that is core to the entire way that we build things here, and it's core to our just entire design and manufacturing process. It really allows us to produce really the highest level product possible, and to be sure that it's going to be the highest level product every single time. And that's essential. We couldn't do it without this machine. So moving on, let's head over to the cabinet shop. Okay, and over here we have our cabinet production area. This is where we take all those cut CNC parts, we assemble them, paint them, touch them up, make sure everything is true and square and as it should be. Also any cabinet hardware like drawer slides or drawer latches, like this is a kitchen cab, for example. All that stuff will be installed here, make sure everything runs smoothly, QC it, and make sure it's ready to go, put in a van. Over here is our main production space. So we've got about 7 vans in here right now. We can easily fit about 9 or 10. And each van is assigned a single builder. The benefit we find of that is that, number one, that builder can be responsible for the van for the whole way through the build process. So we know who to talk to if there's ever any issue. And then also at the end of that process, when the client shows up, that builder can hand that van off to the client, give them a tour, and also be able to enjoy that sense of pride in building this beautiful home and seeing somebody drive away in it. Let's go check out a couple vans back here in different stages of production. All right, so this van came in earlier this week. It's really in the early stages. So, first thing we do is we cut all the holes for our windows, our fans, the air conditioner, if we're going to have that, any holes. We cut all that stuff first. Install those components. We insulate with 3M Insulate in all our vans. Depending on where in the van it is, we put a different number of layers in there to try and max out that level of insulation. But like I said, this van's just been here a few days and it's just getting started. My guess is probably the floor is going to go in next. This is going to be a base camper. This one over here is going to be a Highline. So this van, while it looks like it's gotten a lot more progress than the other one, really what's happened is just that some of those prefabricated cabinets from the systems area have been installed. So there was a lot of work that went into this van before it arrived, but actually this van is only probably a couple days ahead of that van. So the cabinet installation process happens really fast. It's very satisfying. Feels like a lot's happening really fast, and it is. But what's actually happening is we are installing all of the work that was done previously. Many, many hours goes in just behind the scenes before the van even gets here. Let's go over to the sandstone van over here, and I'll show you that. And this van is just a few days away from getting ready to go. This is JT. He's one of our builders. He's awesome. For us, what it takes to be a builder is the main thing is you really need to have this kind of incredible attention to detail that you either have it or you don't. JT's got it in spades. He's awesome. So he's just doing the final paint touch-ups, making sure everything's perfect before we ship this one out. So this is like, one of the best parts is where you get to pull all the tape off, pull all this like plastic protective stuff off, and we put the mattress in, we put all the cushions in, and then we get to see, for the first time, you get to really see the van as it's going to be. It's incredibly satisfying. Anybody who's ever pulled one of those little protective screens off their iPhone, it's like that times like 1,000. So that's going to be happening over the rest of today and tomorrow, and then it's going to go through its QC checks and things like that. So let's go back over to the van where we started, and we'll wrap up over there. This van's leaving in about a week or so. Clients are coming to pick it up, and so we're just putting it through its final quality control and departure checklists to make sure that everything is exactly how it should be. One thing I would really love for you to understand, but it's hard to express about our builders, is just how incredibly talented they are. They are all extraordinary craftspeople. They put so much of themselves into every one of these homes that they build, and it means a tremendous amount to them, and it means a lot to me to see the amount of pride that they have in what they build, and then to see that product transferred to our clients' hands. It's hard to express, but it means a lot to us. I hope you liked this tour. I hope you learned something about the way that we do things. And if you like this video, hit subscribe so you can catch more things that we do. And hope to see you soon. Thanks.